Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast, a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts, America's Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today.
Hello, friends, and welcome to America Still Beautiful. Ladies and gentlemen, we are so excited to have you here on this GSMC network podcast today. I'm Brooklyn Tanner. I'm your host. I'm so excited to throw you all the positive news today, but I'll try not to throw. I'll try to kindly and skillfully deliver it in lovely parts of stories. So welcome to the podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. Happy Friday! You made it through another week. It was a crazy windy one over here on the West Coast. Oh boy, fires and winds are happening, but things are a little bit more calm today. So happy Friday. We're very glad to make it through another week. What are your fun plans for the weekend? I am excited for the weekend. It always means a little bit more free time with my family. And this weekend, we actually get to help some people that we know move. They're moving house pretty, across a few states. So I think it's exciting to move. I like kind of going through the stuff and putting it all in a new place and making a new place home. So I'm excited for them, and I hope that they enjoy their new place, and excited to help them get unpacked and all. And let's see what else. I think my family and I are going to try and go for a little hike. It's a good socially distanced activity to do, I think, is enjoy nature. Drive up the mountains and kind of see the leaves while they're starting to turn lovely colors for the fall. Do you feel the fall creeping in? Are you one of those people that are already cozying up to all the fall traditions? Are you busting out your leggings and Ugg boots? Are you putting in your order for the pumpkin spice latte with extra cream and cinnamon at Starbucks? Are you making a pumpkin pie, buying it from Costco? Are you basically playing Christmas music right now? Well, I know that lots of people are excited for those kind of things, and especially with the internet, we've gotten more excited about the little cliche fun things about fall, but maybe you're holding on to summer for dear life. I know in many parts of the country it's still very warm, and so of course we have lots of opportunity to still enjoy summer. I even got to go swimming today, so I think I'm kind of still in that summer spirit a little bit, but I enjoy the change of the seasons as they come. Well, another important part of the weekend is, what are you eating this weekend? My family and I kind of take the opportunity to, maybe indulge in a little bit more delicious food or do takeout or something on the weekends, because we think that's fun, and I adore food, and so I think it's really fun to kind of grab something that you wouldn't maybe have like on a regular Tuesday night. But I'm excited. I think we're going to go for maybe one of Popeye's chicken sandwiches. Don't tell Chick-fil-A. I think it would also be fun to get some pizza. I am kind of craving Papa John's. There are a lot of pizza places I love, and I have never been to New York or Chicago, so I don't really know like what the real deal tastes like. I know that that's probably like in another world entirely. But as far as pizza that I've had over here, I really enjoy Papa John's. Their dough is just like so fluffy and sweet and chewy in the best way. And their cheese mix is good. Anyway, pizza, I love it. So what are you eating this weekend? Is it going to be something fun? I am excited for a fun weekend. And to kick it off for you on this Friday, we have many happy, wonderful, good, uplifting, inspiring, and fun and delicious stories for you today. So you're in the right place for a little pick-me-up. Now, as we begin, we like to kind of talk about what the holidays are for the day and what happened previously in history. So as we know here in the United States, September 11th is a day that we typically remember the terrorists' attacks of September 11th, 2001 on the World Trade Center. And that's a very somber and difficult thing to remember, to speak of, and to, just feel. However, in an attempt to honor the people who lost their lives on that day, and also the people who worked to help, and how people came together and to honor our country and the difficult thing that has overcome. On the podcast today, we wanted to highlight a few stories of some heroes, people who were on the good side on that day and who worked hard to help people get out of trouble. So there's a great story about a 24-year-old equities trader who helped at least a dozen people get out of the building and then went back in with the firefighters to save more. Just a few minutes after the United Airlines Flight 175 struck the South Tower of the World Trade Center, 24-year-old Willis Crowther called his mother and calmly left a voicemail. "Mom, this is Willis. I want you to know that I'm okay." Crowther was an equities trader at the Sandler O'Neill and Partners on the 104th floor. After the call, the man, who was a volunteer firefighter in his teens, made his way down to the 78th floor sky lobby and became a hero to strangers, known only as the man in the red bandana. This is a quote about their experience being helped by this man. Amid the smoke, chaos, and debris, Crowther helped injured and disoriented office workers to safety, risking his own life in the process. Though they couldn't see much through the haze, those he saved recalled a tall figure wearing a red bandana to shield his lungs and mouth. He had come down to the 78th floor sky lobby, an alcove in the building with express elevators meant to speed up trips to the ground floor. In what's being described as a strong, authoritative voice, Crowther directed survivors to the stairway and encouraged them to help others while he carried an injured woman on his back. After bringing her 15 floors down to safety, he made his way back up to help others. "Everyone who can stand now," he said to survivors, and directed them to the stairway exit. "If you can help others, do so." He is credited with saving at least a dozen people that day, and he had to also be rescued in the end. And so, what a selfless guy to not only have the foresight to call his mom and let her know that he was okay, but then work as hard as he could to save as many people as possible. And I don't think it was a coincidence that he had that training, volunteer firefighter training, as a teenager, and then could use it so effectively to help other people as he was there on that scary day in the building. Okay, another more inspiring people about two former U.S. Marines who put their uniforms back on and searched through rubble that could have collapsed at any moment. In there, they found 2 survivors. Another is 2 flight attendants on the American Airlines flight who calmly relayed information on the hijackers that would help the FBI determine who the perpetrators were. Oh, and that's so hard to stay calm in an emergency, but really it's usually the most effective way to get the help that is needed. Another hero we want to honor goes to Rick Rescorla, who was responsible for saving more than 2,700 lives, and he sang songs to keep people calm while they evacuated. He was already a hero on the battlefields of Vietnam, and then when he was there in the South Tower, he helped people and saved hundreds of lives as well. Another are for 2 unarmed F-16s, these pilots who scrambled to stop any other hijacked airliners, and the pilots who were prepared to give their lives to stop them. So once they realized what was going on, they had these planes who the pilots worked to make sure there were no other planes coming in, and were prepared to take down the planes for whatever it would take. So there is a great, there are so many great resources online. I kind of started on today.com and on history.com, but Business Insider, and there are, while we probably can't visit the museums right now, there are many great resources online, videos and documentaries that can help us remember not only the tragedy, but the heroes and the good helpers who were there at that scary time. And how grateful we are to, even though we having a slightly more difficult year, we have that event that banded us together as Americans and helped us remember what is really important: family, protecting each other, and looking out for one another. So I hope we can have a bright spots in our hearts today, and come away with hope and good hope for the future, and good memories of the past as well. Okay, I'm going to shift right over to a very happy story about a whale who was unfortunately famous for mourning the death of her first child whale. She actually has become a mother again, and she has given birth to a healthy whale. Taleka the killer whale is a mom again, and Today.com brings us this great article. The orca, who famously carried her dead calf with her for weeks in 2018, has now given birth to a healthy calf, according to the Center for Whale Research, which monitors killer whale populations in the Pacific Northwest. The center shared a photo on Twitter of the mom and her calf swimming side by side. It is a really cute photo with the two dorsal fins popping up out of the water. Hooray! Her new calf appeared healthy and precocious, swimming vigorously alongside its mother in its second day of free swimming life, which is a press release given by the Center of Whale Research. We know that it's not born today because its dorsal fin was upright, and we know that it takes a day or two to straighten after being bent over in the womb. So we assign its birthday as about September 4th, 2020. Orcas have an 18-month gestation period. Let me read that again. 18-month gestation period. Oh boy, ladies, do you want to just double that whole time that we were pregnant? I don't think so. That's pretty amazing. So scientists estimate that Taleka, who was referred to by researchers as J35, had been pregnant with the calf named J57 since February of last year. Taleka made headlines in 2018 when she was seen carrying her dead calf on her head for 17 days over a distance about 1,000 miles around the Salish Sea, a network of waterways off the coast of Washington and British Columbia. Her period of mourning, which the center called the Orca's Mom's Tour of Grief, struck a chord with people around the world. It was heartbreaking, and it was most likely very stressful and painful for her. And it kind of sparked this group of moms who had also lost children online to be able to share their stories together and find comfort in one another. So far, Taleka's new calf, whose sex has not been identified, seems strong and healthy as it swam with its mother. And based on researchers' latest sighting, Taleka seems to be very protective of her new little one. Taleka was mostly separate from the other whales and being very evasive as she crossed the border into Canada, the center said. So we ended our encounter with her after a few minutes and wished them well on their way. I think this is a really happy story. I know, again, it's, as we were speaking of before, it is so difficult to go through something that seems tragic, unfair, and even horrible, and just so effective. And it's not like we can forget those things or just positive think our way out of them or anything like that. But it does give us the life experience that allows us to appreciate even more the happy things that come in life and allow us to empathize with others who go through similar things. And I really think that's meant to be a part of the whole human experience. So, now we're excited to bring you even more happy stories on the podcast today. So stay tuned, because after the break, we have some great stories that will really inspire you to keep your head up. Be back right after this.
The GSMC Life and Happiness podcast takes you on a journey of exploration. We'll discuss tried and true methods alongside the latest trends of how to best live your life to its fullest and happiest. From psychology to meditation, science to self-help books, the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast will help you to discover what makes you happy and how you can live life being the best you possible. Download the GSMC Life and Happiness podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Hey, welcome back to the show. Thanks again for joining us today. All right, I have 3 clues for you regarding the next 3 stories here on this segment. So you can just kind of listen to them for right now, and then you can guess what you think the stories will be about. The first clue is, I have the power. Second is, what is lost is found. And third is, won't you be my neighbor? Okay, well, maybe you can kind of think of how those relate to headlines you maybe have already heard, but I bet this is probably the first time that you're hearing these stories here on America's Still Beautiful. So let's jump right into it. This first story comes from KSL.com. We have all 3 of these are local stories highlighting happy events that are happening in local cities. So this is centered in northern Utah, in Salt Lake City and north of there, where they're getting windstorm updates, but focusing on the great people working very hard to restore power after hurricane-strength winds tore through Utah. So tens of thousands of people remained without power along the Wasatch Front Thursday morning following a fierce windstorm earlier this week. More than 66,000 customers were without power as of 6 a.m. today. However, initially after the storm, over 150,000 Rocky Mountain Power customers were without the power. The impacted areas run from Ogden to Salt Lake City, Utah. The storm that hit Monday night into Tuesday knocked out power to, 180,000 customers at one point. Some schools still remain closed or with modified schooling, as they don't even have the power to do remote school for the moment. So the latest windstorm updates are being posted constantly, but they have a video that goes on to interview people that are working for Rocky Mountain Power, albeit very briefly, and they are just kind of, it was really fascinating for me to watch, because they're working so hard to restore the power. They're putting up new poles because many power line poles were just snapped by the wind. I mean, the winds were from between 80 miles per hour and 110 miles per hour at the strongest points for this storm. And it wasn't really much rain or anything like that, but just a huge windstorm. And Utah has not seen anything like that in recent history. So it really took residents by surprise, especially because Monday was such a warm and summery day. It was like 90s and 80s. And then on Tuesday, bam, that wind came in, and it was just like the temperature dropped all the way down to the mid 40s in Salt Lake, and then up north a little bit into Wyoming. They had it in 20s in Denver and in Jackson. So, it got really cold. The degrees are in Fahrenheit, 20 degrees Fahrenheit and 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Got really chilly all of a sudden. People kind of kicking on their heat. And the Rocky Mountain Power Company is working hard to make sure everybody gets the power that they need. And this guy, one of the directors of Rocky Mountain Power was out there helping in the video put some power lines back together, and he says it's very exciting to be able to kind of go through and try to help people, and they're working around the clock as hard as they can to get power restored to all the residents in as timely of a manner as possible. And not only are the employees in Utah working hard to help out their employees, but they've also had other employees from other power companies come up from Nevada and down from other states to help and have more hands on deck and more supplies there to restore this power for people who have been out of power for right around 50 hours now. So I just really admired that work ethic and kind of the really positive vibe that guy gave off, where it's this is a scary thing, but I know how to fix it, and so I'm going to just go and do my best to fix it as much as I can. So I really enjoyed watching that video and this article. So don't forget that when hard things happen, to do what you can to help and look for the helpers, because that's where the positivity lies. Okay, are you ready for our lost and found story? It's all about a woman who lost her wedding ring shortly after getting married, rediscovered it just days before her 40th anniversary. And let me tell you, these wedding pictures are so sweet. Her wedding dress is classic and beautiful, and he's in a very nice gray kind of plaid suit. An English woman who lost her wedding ring in the garden almost 4 decades ago has just found it buried in the soil just days before her 40th anniversary. 65-year-old Paula Walter lost the precious wedding band back in 1983 when she was playing catch with her son outside their home in Plymouth, Devon. The ring flew off her finger as they were frolicking in the garden, and despite conducting a lengthy search for the grounds with a metal detector, it was never found. Paula, who tied the knot with her now 73-year-old husband on August 28, 1980, was heartbroken by the disappearance of her cherished 18-karat gold band. My house backs onto woodland, and I thought possibly the ring flew in there. I thought it was gone forever. Over the years, whenever we've been in the garden or out there, I've always said, have a look for the ring, but I have never found it. To her delight, however, the missing ring was finally discovered last month. Paula's lucky break came when she hired local landscaping company Man for All Seasons to clean up her garden a few days before her wedding anniversary. She says, we had a gardening company come in and landscape our garden, and I told them about the ring and the whole story. Although the yard had been dug up multiple times in the past, the gardeners struck gold. They called me out into the garden a while later, saying they had a surprise for me, and they handed me my wedding ring. It was in the garden where I was standing and where I had been playing ball with my son all those years ago. I was so shocked but incredibly grateful. It's wonderful to have it back. That is just a crazy story, how it was right there where she lost it 40 years ago. How bizarre is that? And where was it all this time when they were combing through the garden looking for it? I thought that story was incredible, and I'm glad that they'll have an even happier 40th anniversary now that she has the ring back. And of course, rings are nice, and it's a beautiful symbol if it's something that matters to you, of the marriage and the commitment. But it goes to show that she has been happily married to this man for 40 years, even without that particular ring on her finger. So it's really just about the commitment, making things work, and putting your priorities together. I really liked that story because it's kind of sweet, and also really inspired me to just treasure what I hold dear, like my wedding ring, but also my husband as well. Okay, our last clue is Won't You Be My Neighbor? And this is the sweetest story about neighbors who have become really good friends during this lockdown pandemic. Has that happened to you? I know that we've been socially distant from many people that we love and adore and wish that we could be with more these days. However, it's kind of also given us the opportunity to make better friends. So let's hear about one woman's experience who says, I had hardly spoken to my neighbor before lockdown. Now he's my constant companion. All right, this story comes from Kate Ruinet. and her upstairs neighbor from in Asheville, North Carolina. She says, I'm a writer and he's a bouncer, and we used to have very different schedules, but this summer we found we shared not just a porch, but a political outlook. As an artist and a writer, I already worked from home and was used to living alone. Then came the pandemic. During the past few months, my neighbor has taken over our shared porch. He is a bouncer who has been out of work since the bars here in North Carolina closed. Previously, we kept very different schedules since he worked nights and slept during the day. He hardly ever used the porch. Now he is usually there and at the window to greet me when I open my living room blinds in the morning. Being a native New Yorker and a natural okay, we can do this, people. Brooklyn is going to read you a story with a calm and good voice. Being a native New Yorker and a natural introvert, I guard my privacy. Before the pandemic, my neighbor and I would speak only occasionally. It was a, how are you? I'm fine kind of relationship. But on the first day of the state's stay-at-home order, which was put in place at the end of March, he went out on the porch and has been there pretty much ever since. Now it feels as if I have a roommate. While other women have gone braless during the pandemic, I must forsake comfort. I open the blinds only when I'm ready to be seen. He also invites friends over, and I can hear their conversations, whether I want to or not. When this happens, I have to give up trying to get any work done. That being said, it has sometimes felt like a blessing. At the height of the pandemic, I didn't feel lonely. If I wanted company, I could just talk to him through the window. I'm 60 and he's in his early 40s, but he's an interesting guy, well-traveled, and I've discovered we have a similar political point of view. We talk about how COVID-19 is impacting our town. Asheville usually attracts tourists to its River Arts District as well as the Blue Ridge Mountains, but not this year. He tells me about his studies as he's taking art classes, and my background is as an artist. He shares his worries that he's become out of shape while the gym has been closed, and now that it's open again, he worries about working out around strangers. I talk about my fear that I might be stuck here for the winter when I would usually travel to India, and we complain about the weather. He has also proved to be considerate. He'll usually listen to music and has very varied taste. I told him early on that I didn't mind if he played jazz, but anything else would interrupt my ability to work, so he stuck with that. I love how honest she is. She says, I've avoided joining him and his friends because they don't wear masks, but I'll sit with him when he's alone. I feel safer with him there. The guy is 6'2" and more than 220 pounds or 100 kilograms, so no one's going to mess with me. It's a small porch, but we're able to sit 6 feet apart, and at the moment we'll sit out there together a couple of times a week. I used to read more on the porch, but now we usually end up talking. Occasionally I'll hear his motorcycle start up, and I'll know that the porch is all mine for an hour or so. I really thought this was kind of an interesting blog post type thing, and there is a cute picture of this artist woman and this former bouncer guy, and they're sitting on their porch, shared porch, and she lives there and he lives upstairs. So I really thought this was an interesting story, and I bet everybody kind of has a story like this, how their life changed during the lockdown, who they became closer with, and who they whose relationships kind of just petered out a bit. But I had a similar experience as well, where there's a woman that lives near me who I didn't really know at all, and we kind of hooked onto the same walking schedule while we were walking our kids in strollers, and although we would stay 6 feet apart, we kind of started chatting, and we've become really dear and close friends, and I'm extremely grateful for her friendship, especially this year. So don't forget to kind of look back and see what relationship elements you are grateful for during this pandemic. Okay, time for another short little break, but I have more happy stories coming up right after this.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the show, everybody. This is America Still Beautiful, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Aren't we lucky to have so much positive news to listen to today? I sure am grateful about it. The next two stories are all about two peas in a pod. Some amazing stories about how... Sorry. Okay, so I guess I should really start over, but I'm just cracking myself up. I mean, it's like something fell over and my timer just exploded, but hey, let's just keep it real here. Let's reset the timer. Let's keep going. Okay, our next two stories are about two very special children who have found dogs that match their lifestyle, needs, and love perfectly. Are you ready to hear all about it? It sure is wonderful. Okay, the first one we have is a blind teen who is a swimmer and her guide dog who make the perfect pair in the Paralympics quest. New York resident Anastasia Pangonis cheered for the New York Islanders long before she had any idea the professional hockey team would raise a guide dog for her. But when she was 14 years old, around the time the little Labrador retriever named Radar became the first puppy with a purpose for the Isles, Anastasia, unfortunately lost her vision over the course of 2 months. She says, being a teenage girl is hard, so having that on top of it was just such a struggle for me. It took me about 8 months to kind of regroup myself. And then I got in my head, okay, I'm blind. Now what am I going to do with my life? And the answer is competitive swimming. The mid-distance freestyler had just taken up the sport about 6 months before losing her sight and dove right back in. She says, it's my happy place. It's the place where I feel like I don't have a disability, and I feel like that's the only place where I feel free. When I dive in the water, it's just me in the pool and I feel such a connection with it. Anastasia is now 16 and has racked up impressive victories, including 2 gold medals at the World Para Swimming World Series in Australia just before the coronavirus pandemic shut things down. Then she got a call from the nonprofit Guide Dog Foundation about partnering with Radar, who was ready to be a guide dog. Because of the pandemic, Anastasia and Radar trained together for several hours each morning at her home for about 10 days. Then, on August 19th, they officially teamed up. She says, having Radar has just given me so much independence and I'm literally in love with him. He is the best thing ever. We're a match made in heaven. And you guys, this picture of this girl with her gorgeous long hair and this dog with his gorgeous short golden retriever hair is adorable. They're just nuzzling noses and they are such a pair. Oh, and the next picture is her popping out of the pool with like a kissy face and she's got her goggles on and everything and the dog's kind of licking her cheek. Oh, it's a really cute twosome. Couple goals. All right. Well, recently Radar traveled with Anastasia to the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Training Center in Colorado Springs, where the teen is training with other top athletes for the 2021 Paralympics in Tokyo. The 2021 Paralympics will be broadcast by NBC Universal. After just a week, the smart dog learned familiar routes while helping guide Anastasia around the campus. Pretty much if I'm coming from my dorm room, I'll say, radar, forward, find the elevator. And he'll go down a bunch of hallways and make a few turns and he'll find the elevator. If I didn't have radar, I would have to glide against the wall and bump into a bunch of things that would honestly be pretty impossible for me to find the elevator without asking for help because I have no eyes. So, he's pretty much like my eyes. Oh, I love how these two work together. Radar is a hit with the other athletes who already know him by name. Everyone thinks that he's the best, she says. I feel so blessed that I was able to come out here with some of the top elite athletes in the country. I feel like everyone in the Paralympics is such an amazing fighter, and we're all just awesome. I totally agree, Anastasia. I think that you're very awesome. She hopes to win the gold medal in Tokyo for her golden puppy, and of course, she's not the only one. Anne Rena is the Senior Director of Community Relations for the New York Islanders, and she said the team has requested updates on Radar and Anastasia while they travel the world together. Radar was hugely popular with both players and fans who would stand in long lines to meet him at games. For his part, Radar loved meeting fans and was particularly fond of the team mascot, Sparky the Dragon, and the two even showcased their affection on the kiss cam. How cute. She is thrilled that Radar partnered with an athlete from a family of Islander fans and whose club swim team is called the Islanders Aquatics. But most importantly, she's glad that they gel so well together. She said, I could tell that it was the right match when they met. We wish them great luck over in Tokyo. Not only is Radar representing the U.S. in Tokyo, but he's representing the Islanders too. John Miller, president and CEO of Guide Dog Foundation and its sister organization, America's Vet Dogs, said because all of the nonprofit services are free of charge to clients, donors and volunteers across the country are vital. He's grateful that sports teams and today for Puppies with a Purpose programs that spotlight puppy raising. He's glad that Radar already made such a difference for Anastasia and called them the perfect pair. Our entire organization will be rooting for Anastasia, he says. All of our clients are special, and it motivates us here every day to see the differences in their lives once they receive their dogs and the impact the dog has had on them and their families. Oh, these pictures continue to be super adorable. Make sure you look up Anastasia and her dog Radar. They are training like absolute champions, and I'm so excited for them to compete together in Tokyo. So keep an eye out for that. And this is just a reminder because Anastasia, this queen, has let us know that even though a difficult thing stopped her from doing something really important in her life, like seeing, it didn't take away the thing that she loved to do, and she was able to adapt, figure out how to do it in a new way, and now she's on her way to being an Olympic champion. So be inspired by that, and just we got to look up to these amazing people because they really work hard to push past. And I mean, just because they've got this success, it doesn't mean that it was easy or that they feel like it was like no big deal to work through that. Like, seriously, we see them in this one moment of glory, but they work so hard to get to it. So props to you, Anastasia. All right, our next puppy love tale is for an adorable boy with cleft lip who finds his perfect puppy. He had found his perfect match, a puppy with the same condition. When a young father went to the local animal shelter to look at chickens, the last thing he was expecting was to come home with a puppy. The Good News Network brings us this excellent story. But when he saw a black and white pup with a cleft lip just like his son's, he knew that the sweet dog would make a perfect addition to the family. And as you can see from the photos, little Bentley, who's now age 2, was so delighted to meet his new best friend. Oh, this little 2-year-old and this little puppy, they're just so adorable. Bentley's mom, Ashley Boyers, is excited about the budding friendship between the pair as well. She explained that seeing her toddler son have something in common with a puppy means a lot because he can grow up and understand that his puppy and him both have something that they can share in common. As for the team at Michigan's Jackson County Animal Shelter, they are equally happy to see the instant love between the 2-month-old puppy and 2-year-old Bentley. Writing on Facebook, they said, "It's so hard to put into words how meaningful this adoption is to all of us. We wish many years of joy as this pair grows up together." And that really is what they'll do. They're both so little. The puppy's barely even smaller than the boy, Bentley. And he is such a sweetheart. Oh, they're both super adorable, and I'm so glad. Oh, sorry. I'm so glad that they have each other. Oh, such a sweet story. If you have a dog, I'm a little jealous, and I would love to know about your dog. I have not had dogs as pets, but my husband has, and the dogs that his family still has right now, one's name is Pepsi, and I just love that because his brother found this cute little dog at the park as a puppy. She was just a couple weeks old and unfortunately abandoned. So his brother brought this cute little dog home and really, really, really wanted to keep her. And Mom was on board, but Dad wasn't on board so much. So what he decided to do was name the dog Pepsi. And since that was his dad's favorite drink, they were hoping that he would kind of like warm up to the dog, Pepsi, and now Pepsi, she's still in the family. So we're so glad Pepsi got to stay, and we're grateful that she did, and it's kind of a fun name for a dog. All right, well, we're flying over to Charleston, South Carolina for our next article here, which is from Count On 2 News, and it's a local story from one of their school districts, giving parents tips about virtual learning. So what did y'all decide? I do not envy the parents that had to decide where their kids go this fall. I know it's such a difficult decision, and I think whichever decision you made, it's probably the right one for your kid, because there's not one right answer for everybody, you know? So maybe your kid's in school, maybe they're homeschooling, maybe they're doing a hybrid model. But there are lots of resources here on the internet that help to give the parents tips they need to stay sane and help their kids keep up with their learning this year. So this article condenses into some very nice little tips and tricks that I thought we could share here on the podcast. So if any of you are learning from home or have kids that are learning from home, or even if you're working from home still, these tips will probably help out to create a productive environment. So virtual learning can be difficult not only for students, but also for the parents at home with them. The following are suggestions that experts give to help make virtual learning a little easier. First is arranging and designating a learning area with little distractions. So if you can kind of carve out one wall in a room in your house to set up tables or a table or like desks for your kids, where that is the designated place where they learn and nothing else really happens in that area throughout the day, then that kind of gives the kids the feelings that they're going to their learning place and they can focus there on their schoolwork and not like snacks in the food or like the TV that's right next to them or their toys in the bedroom or something. If you can kind of clear away a spot and designate a space for learning, then that is definitely helpful. Next is following a consistent schedule. So kind of starting at the same time every day, finishing on time as well. This one is a tough one for me, but I find that if I determine what time I'm going to start something and actually start it at that time, it just goes so much more productively. Next is monitoring pacing and grades to make sure your child is on track. So I think that you can help the kids take appropriate breaks and also keep up on their pacing, make small goals so they can make it to those big goals. And also the last tip is to regularly speak with your child's teacher. It is hard on teachers and parents this time of year. This is something we've never done before, trying to coordinate between teachers and parents and teachers who are both working hard and wanting the best, of course, for the kids. So keep in communication with the teachers so that you know what their expectations are and they can provide you with the resources you need if you're struggling. And also, even if it's difficult, you got to express that appreciation for these teachers because I think most of them really do what they can to make the lives of their kids the best that they possibly can. Dr. Tiffany Hollis is an associate professor at the Spadoni College of Education, and she says, if we work with the parents and create this partnership, we can create this successful environment for the students in the midst of this pandemic. You can also help by keeping login information written down on your child's learning area and setting up a time each day to help your child with questions that they have about their coursework. That's good, so they don't get stuck every time they're confused, but they can kind of bank questions for a particular time in the day that you're available to help them, and then really dedicate your, a particular bracket of time to helping them out with that. These tips are suggestions to help both you and your students be able to excel through school in this pandemic. So this is just a little pep talk from me. I am not currently homeschooling, but I really admire all of you that are homeschooling, who are schooling, and helping your kids with everything else in between. So hang in there. You're doing a great job, and whatever obstacles come your way, try to take them in stride and know that the only thing that's certain is change. So nothing's ever going to be like any type of normal. It's just, what it is day to day. So keep your head up, and I hope you have a great school year, because I always looked forward to being in school, and I really love it. Okay, those have been some really wonderful stories, and after the break we have, stories about food, my favorite part. Some really exciting stories to come. So stick around, and we'll talk to you after the break.
Want to find out what movies to go see? Then check out the GSMC Movie Podcast. It's your ticket to the latest movies, whether it's a new blockbuster event, romantic, comedy, or action flick. This show has got it all covered. They talk some what to go see now, don't bother, what's hot on Netflix, and everything in between. That's gsmcpodcast.com/movie-podcast. When it's all about the movies, it has to be this new show. Don't forget to like them on Facebook and follow them on Twitter. Visit gsmcpodcast.com for more info.
Hey, it's America Still Beautiful, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network, the podcast hosted by Brooklyn, where we get to talk all about food. Okay, I'm just kidding. No, it's our podcast with good... Okay. I think I just deleted like 5 minutes of time because the computer just stopped it did not stop recording. It just shut down for a second there, so don't worry, we'll edit it out. But okay, it's not the podcast where we talk about food. It's the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast, where we're bringing you great news from all across the country and even the world, which right now includes some great news about two of your favorite things: chocolate and cheese. It's been said time and time again by very wise humans of the world that anything can be improved by either chocolate or cheese, and usually if it's by mood, it's both of those foods. But we have a chocolate story and a cheese story for you right now. Have you heard about this yet? It's pretty exciting. A Swiss town is covered in chocolate rain after a factory malfunction. Residents of a small Swiss town have found buildings and property dusted in chocolate rain after a glitch at a nearby confectionery factory. Lindt said its factory in Olten had a minor problem with the cooling ventilation system for roasted cocoa nibs, a key part of the chocolate production last week. Whipped up by strong winds on Friday morning, the cocoa powder spread around the area near the factory, leaving a fine cocoa dusting on the town, which is located between the larger cities of Zurich and Basel. One car was lightly covered in the powder, and the company said. It added that it offered to pay for any cleaning, but hasn't yet been taken up on the offer. Yeah, I don't know if I would want any help cleaning up chocolate. I think I'd probably keep it all to myself. The particles were completely harmless to people or the environment, Lind said. Factory work carried on as normal despite the malfunction, and the ventilation system has now been repaired. I thought that was such a funny story and just like really magical that their area just had a little dusting of cocoa powder snow. Sounds delicious, don't you think? I mean, and those Lindt, the Lindt chocolates that's like good. I mean, I'm pretty much up for any chocolate, but Lindt chocolate, that's some special stuff. So congratulations to those living in that Swiss town to get a little chocolate dusting. If you maybe love chocolate, or if you don't, do you like cheese? Have you heard about this huge, big, cheesy giveaway? It's pretty exciting because if you like cheese, you may want to enter the sweepstakes to win a 22-pound cheese wheel. That's right. The Manitowoc Area Visitor and Convention Bureau has the contest for you. MAVCB has launched the 2020 Manitowoc. I need to figure out how to say that. Manitowoc Two Rivers Big Cheesy Sweepstakes, in which contestants can enter to win a 22-pound wheel of cheese, which is extra sharp cheddar cheese from Hennings Cheese. A $140 value. That's right, and there will be one winner. This is not your mother's cheddar cheese, the sweepstakes webpage states. This is a wheel of Hennings extra sharp cheddar cheese, aged 33 months. Winner of a gold medal in the 2019 Cheese Championships, this cheddar is sure to please. The time aging has matured the flavors in this cheese wheel, giving it a flavor you are sure to love. Why give away a 22-pound wheel of cheese, you might ask? Because we could not work out the logistics of shipping a 40-pound block of cheese. Just like that. This block of cheese begs you to invite people over and have a party. Sure, you can eat it all yourself, but sharing this prize makes it even more fun. People can enter to win the block of cheese through the link on the MAVCB website. Entries will be taken until 7 p.m. on November 30th, and prizes will be awarded at 7 p.m. on December 7th. I think this is pretty awesome, I must say. I am a cheese connoisseur myself. I don't know about a lot of cheeses. Honestly, the amount of cheeses I know about probably are all on that little Costco tray variety cheese tray, which seems kind of fancy when you're there. But I think this is awesome. I hope the person that wins it is super pleased and very excited because, I mean, cheese. 22 pounds of extra sharp cheddar cheese. That sounds delicious, and it would make some really good grilled cheese sandwiches. If you've been listening for a while, you might remember a few episodes back when I gave my secret, ultimate, unlocking recipe to my quarantine grilled cheese. The secret is that you just cook it in a waffle iron. It just makes it way better. Add some pesto if you want. Okay, I love chocolate and cheese, but when it comes down to it, I'm really looking for candy. So this next story just hits me in all the right places. It's a real-life Willy Wonka who's giving away his candy factory in a giant treasure hunt. Good News Network lets us know this is not a drill. Gold tickets really are being hidden for you to find. As Jelly Belly founder David Klein, aka the Candyman, gets ready to retire, he's decided to leave the candy industry with a bang and a fizz and a pop. He's placing a Willy Wonka-style golden tickets out into the world for people to hunt for. David and his partner have started going across the USA and hiding tickets in the form of necklaces in places they come across with an interesting story. Plans are to have multiple treasure hunts for these golden tickets in each state. You can join one of their treasure hunts at the website listed on Good News Network. Each treasure hunt is valued at $5,000 and there's a cost of $50 to enter. The biggest and best part of the treasure hunts is that anyone who joins at least one treasure hunt will be eligible to search for the ultimate treasure, the key to one of David's candy factories, and an all-expenses paid trip and education to a candy-making university. oh man, he will add this treasure hunt after all the states have had a chance to play. With the Gold Ticket Treasure Hunt, our goal is to get people out and about with their families. Grandma and Grandpa can even join in with the kids and grandkids. We think this is one initiative that Willy Wonka and the Oompa Loompas would certainly be proud of. Hey, I think this is really cute and really shows this guy loves kids and the fun that comes with life and the fun that comes with candy. So I think it sounds like a lot of fun. Would you enter a candy challenge or a big giant cheese wheel sweepstakes? Let us know over on Instagram. We would love to hear your thoughts. Okay, before I close out today, I want to give you the quote of the day. It's inspiring, it's hopeful, and it's happening right now. It's from Charles M. Schultz, and he says, "Learn from yesterday, live for today, look to tomorrow, and rest this afternoon." I like this because learning from yesterday, that's something that we've kind of thought about today. There's difficult things, there's things to be grateful for, and there's lots of people in our life that we can learn from yesterday. Live for today. If we're constantly thinking about what we could have done in the past or what could have been or what we want in the future, those are good things to do, but if we're not thinking of right now, then where are we ever really? That's kind of existential, but really living for today is what we got to do. Look to tomorrow. Don't forget to have hope. Even if things are bad right now, have hope for a better future as well. And rest this afternoon. Don't forget that little bit of self-care, whatever makes you happy and recharges you a bit. Sitting alone in your room with you, listening to your favorite song, doing a super awesome Taibo workout, or painting your toes, or playing a little bit of soccer or something with a friend. Whatever gives you a little rest and recharge, I think it's important to get to that each day as well. I hope you've enjoyed the podcast today. I sure enjoyed doing it. So thanks again for listening. This America's Still Beautiful podcast is brought to you by the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Please subscribe to the show so you can continue to enjoy our episodes and follow us on social media where this time you'll be able to participate in our poll, cheese or candy. All right. You can find GSMC America's Still Beautiful on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again for listening, and I would say be kind to others because you are worth it.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows. From the GSMC Podcast Network, from social media news to marketing news, and even weird news, the GSMC Podcast Network has you covered. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts America's Still Beautiful podcast.